Urban Meyer is now joining us. Urban, for years and years, you knew and I knew, and the world knew the SEC was better. And I don't know who's better in the middle or the tail end, but I think if you took the top 4 teams today in the Big Ten, which would be Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon, and then we can argue over 4. I think they are today as good. My lean is slightly better than the SEC. Where are you at, having coached in both conferences today?
The transition of the Big Ten has been phenomenal. On our the triple option, we had James Franklin. We talked about that because he came into the league a couple of years after I did in 2012. Colin, it wasn't even close. It was shocking. There were great players in the Big Ten, but the stadium atmospheres were just okay. The depth of talent was not there, and certainly the bottom half of the Big Ten just wasn't very good. That's changed. That's changed dramatically. The stadium atmospheres are incredible. The addition of the 4 teams from the Pac-12, I mean, those are 4 legit teams. And how about this stat? This is interesting. In 08-09, there were 28 players drafted average in the Big Ten. This past year, there were 71. That's
wow.
over double. So how do you measure conferences, championships? Big Ten the last 2 years, and those were 2 great teams. The Wolverines and the Buckeyes, great teams. But then the second way to measure it, the NFL and the SEC's, I think it's 19 straight years they've had more draft picks than everyone else. They still do, but the Big Ten's much closer.
Yeah, and I think, we sometimes, because Michigan and Ohio State and Penn State are such big brands, we kind of forget about Washington and Oregon. And I've said this before about Washington. Every time in my life, they've had a great coach. Don James. Neuheisel got him to a Rose Bowl. Chris Peterson. Right. Kalen DeBoer. Every time they have an elite coach, they end up in a playoff. And I don't think people at least in the South, I think they do in the Midwest, they don't understand how good Oregon is as a football program. Whereas the SEC added Texas and Oklahoma, I think people view those as big brands. Tell me how you view Oregon and Washington. Forget SC for a second. I don't think those schools get the national respect, but I would argue Oregon and Washington right now Oregon's better than Oklahoma. Washington's on the same plateau. Where are you on that?
I think nationally Oregon's a different duck, but it's. Everybody looks at Oregon now. I mean, the uniforms, the stadium, the success they've had. I think I actually consider them a blue blood right now, even though they've not won a national championship. The Washington, now I spent time at Colorado State. I spent time at Utah. I recruited out west. Washington is a diamond. And like you said, they've always had, when they have Don James, they have Rick Neuheisel, they have some of those coaches, Chris Peterson. You're in the national championship hunt. They were just recently in the national championship hunt with Kalen DeBoer. So you added 2 great brands to the SEC, but I'll tell you what, you got 3 legits. And you just went, how about this? In the SEC, I count 9 teams that are expected to compete and win a national championship. For years, it was just 3. In the Big Ten, now it's 5. So they've added, there's been some really strength added to the Big Ten.
I think a lot of, we all know the elite NFL coaches. In college, it feels like a young man's game. And I think one of the advantages the Big Ten has now, Franklin's a great recruiter. Ryan Day's a great recruiter. Michigan has always been a solid. I think Dan Lanning's a great recruiter, also a big NIL. USC now has the number 1 2026 class. Jed Fish has always been, even at Arizona, he got all sorts of NFL guys. Is that the reality is the Big Ten now has excellent recruiting coaches. That feels like a big part of it. I mean, when you were in the SEC, who was beating you in the Big Ten for players? I think there's guys now in the Big Ten that go down south and pull players up.
I'm glad you brought that up because this is real life. I leave the SEC and I come to Ohio State, and there was something called a gentleman's agreement. And the gentleman's Coach Bielema got really pissed off at me when we turned a couple players, and I didn't know gentleman agreement. I'm not sure what that means. In the recruiting, you got to go get players. We had 2 kids from Ohio committed to Wisconsin, and we got them. We flipped them. And people were saying, well, you know, in this conference, you don't do that. And I was like, I'm not saw that anywhere in my contract. That's not against the rules. I got a job at Ohio State to go win games. So I'm going to recruit whoever the heck we want to recruit. So the recruiting has changed dramatically. Like you said, you think about the Big Ten coaches that are elite recruiters. I'm not saying they weren't back in 2012, but there wasn't the emphasis on it as now. And as a result, look at the difference. I just told you 71 players drafted in the Big Ten Conference last year compared to 28 just 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
Yeah. The recruiting has changed in college football. I don't fight new stuff. If new stuff comes in, there's new rules, there's new cultures. I'm just going to, I'm going to try to figure out, like Rick Pitino said on my show recently, when the world changes, you can fight it, or you can figure out a way to solve the new world. If you were recruiting now, let's say you're a Buckeye and you're recruiting, or a Gator, whatever it is, how would you attack the NIL? How would you attack it?
I would, you got to get players, and I would attack it the way the big schools are attacking it. I would find out. I would have distribution. I would have a GM. I think Mark Pantoni, the guy we hired there years ago, he's still at Ohio State. I still talk to him once in a while about how they do this, but you have to put emphasis if everybody's abiding by the same rules, which now they are. A year ago, it wasn't the case. You could go out and you spend and through the collectives as much as you can, but I would put premium on positions, a lot like they do the NFL. You got to pay what you got to pay for a quarterback, for defensive ends, corners, and receivers. You have to do it, and I'd pay that center. So I would distribute and build the best team you could possibly can, and that's kind of what the top teams are doing right now.
Yeah. It's funny how you perceive a coach and how the public does. I've always loved Sark, but I've said this about Sark: great recruiter, great with quarterbacks, hustler. Sometimes on the details, I kind of feel like he lets a game flow, and occasionally I'll watch him and think it gets a little away from him. But again, I'm nitpicking. How do you view Sark when you do a Texas game or you watch Texas? What do you see? Does he have a trend? Does he have a tell? Like, how do you view Sark?
Well, I have friends that are around Sark that know him well. I know him fairly well. He's always been great to me. I think he's elite offense. I mean, I'm going to state the obvious first. He's an elite offensive coach. He was in the NFL. He was in college as an assistant, as a head coach. They're always going to be spectacular in offense. But a lot like Lincoln Riley is that you have to grow as a head coach. You don't get championships for offense. That's not how this game works. You get championships for great defense, not turning the ball over, and efficient offense. And I think he's grown into the position. He's still relatively young, even though he's had some great jobs. So I view him as one of the top coaches in the country, and that's why I got Texas as well, I haven't picked them for sure yet, but I'm still studying it. But I think most people have them preseason number one with a returning quarterback.
A program well is LSU. And I like Brian Kelly, but it is again, you are recruiting your own players. Everything's moving. And Brian Kelly and Lincoln Riley, I look at them and I think it doesn't quite look like I think it should look yet. And Saban got out of it. I saw in college basketball, Coach K and Jay Wright are like, it's a young man's game. I'm getting out of this. Let's say LSU is okay this year. Now, I like their quarterback. I think they're going to be better than okay. But is there an argument with all the movement, there's no off season, that for the guys that are post 60, it's harder now than it's ever been?
Well, you got to connect with players, and you look at the best connecting guys, and it's real, is the younger generation. And that's always been kind of the facts of coaching players. You have young guys on your staff. A big part of that is to read the locker room, to let you know the locker room. So Brian Kelly, I admire him. We're friends. We coached against each other. I visited his programs. He's visited mine. To think that he's still coaching, I didn't see that happening. And then he saw an opportunity at LSU. And I'll tell you this about Brian Kelly: he's driven, and he wants that national championship. And you don't move from South Bend. He did it for one reason, and that's to go get that crystal ball. So I know what's driving him, and he's he's one of those guys when he pushes really hard, great things happen. So, yeah, I didn't see that one happening. I didn't see him coaching this long. But when he saw that opportunity showed up at LSU, we actually talked about it a couple of years ago. He just thinks it's spectacular and a chance he can win it all.
Finally, you guys at Ohio State, you picked up Purdue's tight end. Again, another exceptional class. It's Caleb Downs. It's Jeremiah Smith. Everybody loves the quarterback. If I said, give me your top 3 teams in the country just in personnel, I don't want to look at the schedule. If I just said, like last year, by the end of the year, Ohio State had more good players than everybody. They looked like those Alabama teams where they were like Tyson in their prime. People were getting intimidated. Name the 3 best rosters right now, personnel in America.
Yeah, you said you guys at Ohio State. I'm at Fox. I'm not.
Well,
I know.
I was just kind of.
I'm just kidding you. Texas, Ohio State, and Penn State is following the lead of the Wolverines and the Buckeyes, and that is they have more seniors. Think about this, Colin, that I never had a chance to coach 4th-year players. If I did, it was very rare. And the difference between a 4th-year player and a rookie or a freshman is night and day. You're coaching grown-ass men. You're coaching. That's a men's locker room compared to a young person. So watch out for Penn State, man. If Drew Aller can really improve as a quarterback, I agree with you. They got the best backfield. I don't think it's close in the country. They got an offensive line that they can't wait to get on the field. So, yeah, I think Penn State, Texas, and Ohio State are the 3 most talented.
Yeah. Urban Meyer, there's a golf course waiting. There's a 4-iron waiting for you to grab it. So I appreciate you stopping by.
I'll see you at Gina Giorgetti's in Chicago one day.
Tell me when you're in town. I'm ready for it.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoy that clip, make sure you click subscribe somewhere down here. From game highlights to exclusive interviews and rankings, we've got everything you need as a college football fan right here, College Football on Fox.